is not going to play nice, it looks like. So that's okay. All right, we're officially live. Welcome to Catholic Owned Live. This is the Wednesday show, which is all about putting a spotlight on key players and people who have something to say about building the new Catholic economy. We are getting live on all the platforms. Perfect. I think we're all good. We are live on 5 platforms right now, John, if you can believe it. So no pressure.
That's awesome. Well, Brooke, thanks for having me. It's you've been an awesome partner and love what you're building.
Oh, well, thank you so much. We are just honored to have you in Catholic owned and to be an active participant. And I know we're both local here in Little Rock, which is so cool. But I'm really excited to speak with you today because um, one of the important topics when we're talking about changing our buying habits, shifting our purchasing decisions and investment decisions as well, um, is, times are tough for families. So it's a big financial question. And so I'm excited to speak with you about your take on the economics facing families today.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's tougher today than it was several years ago, right? Post COVID, we've seen a lot of inflation. Sure, people have hopefully across the board gotten some level of raises, but it's hard to keep up with the cost of things right now, right? We go to the grocery store, it wasn't that long ago, $100 at the grocery store filled up your cart. Now it just barely buys a handful of items for your family. Um, and we can run that across the board, right? Whether it's, home goods stuff or other things. The cost of things is certainly a lot higher, and it's put a lot of pressure on families to figure out, where they can make adjustments and ultimately still balance their budget. We don't have the luxury of being the government, right? The government's so many trillions of dollars in debt. We don't get the luxury of just defaulting on that. So it's definitely challenging, Brooke. I mean, I'll give it to you. It's something where I think more people now have really uh, gone back to a true like line by line budget of what all they're paying for. I know it wasn't but a couple years ago. It's like, hey, if you have YouTube TV or you have Roku or whatever, hey, you've kind of hacked the system and you know skirted the $200 monthly monthly bill for cable. But now with all the different streaming services, right, we're back up to the $200. So it's at least to watch your game or to watch the NCAA or whatever you want to look at. But yeah, it's tougher. We can dive into maybe some ideas, but no, it's there's just no hiding the fact that it's just a lot tougher on families today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Catholic families, of course, a lot of times we have more children than other families. And so we kind of feel the pinch. I think also the culture that we are in, when we're talking about education decisions that we want to be making, they cost more, whether that be homeschooling, which oftentimes means sacrificing a second income, private school, which can be more than a second income when you have many. Um, so I think the issue hits Catholic families in a particular way.
It does, right? We, like most parents, we want the best for our kids and we want to raise them in a manner that we were raised, right? With the same values centered around our faith and family. And today that costs more, right? I remember my mother, she was one of 6, and they went to a Catholic school for the majority of their childhood. And back then it was just, hey, families tithe what you can, right? But now it's, say, if you want to, you and I are blessed. We live in an area that, Catholic school, whether it's Catholic High for boys or Mount St. Mary for girls, it's relatively affordable compared to other cities you and I have lived in for Catholic schools, which is, you starts to hit you at 10 or 20 plus $1,000 a year for tuition. But yeah, there's, I guess one thing families can do, and I guess I'll back up one step. So the new 530A accounts, or what people know as the Trump accounts, um, if you have a child that was born last year or this year or between now and 2028, uh, the Treasury or the government is going to give $1,000 for you to open that account. And so that's at least a starting block. Those can be used when children turn 18 for education, if we're talking about kind of like the college decisions. But certainly right now, it's tough if you're kind of in the thick of things of paying for tuition. Um, I would just say it really comes back to budgeting. There's things we can talk about like 529s. Those are available to use for you know, lower schooling and middle school and high school. So if you have a 529, or maybe your parents started one, or your grandparents started one for their grandchild or great grandchild, that could be something you utilize and dip into now as we're in the most expensive phase of our lives, raising kids and, trying to grow professionally. But yeah, it's certainly tougher, right? Tuition's not getting cheaper, schooling options aren't getting cheaper, and life's gotten more expensive. So I don't want to be all doom and gloom on your live stream here, Brooke, but it's certainly a thing that, I guess maybe from a faith standpoint, right? It kind of comes back to trying to figure out ways to make sacrifices, right? And whether that's um, sacrificing some maybe enjoyment we would get as parents out of taking a trip with friends, or maybe getting our daily 7 brew or Starbucks, right? Maybe that's, small incremental wins to try to get your kid to the schooling options that you mentioned, or getting them to participate in different activities that would enrich their life.
Yeah, there really are, I think we do have a lot of options. One thing that I know we use, and we were very pleased moving to Arkansas in regards to the scholarships, the school choice scholarships. And I think in Catholic circles, sometimes it's like, oh, well, you're accept, government help, right? In theory, that's like what that is. Um, but what we have found is, for example, in Arkansas, every student gets the scholarship. So if they go to a private school, they're getting it. And I don't know, are you kind of tuned in on that world here in Arkansas or beyond? Because I could talk about that more, but I want to hear your input.
Oh, sure. Yeah, with the for our local listeners, with the LEARNS Act, that's really big, and what you're talking about for sure. I don't know how prevalent that is for different states. I know you and I have lived in a handful of different states, but um, yeah, there's a lot more certainly under this administration, and certainly who's kind of heading up the education department. There's becoming a lot more um, push for school choice and the flexibility for having school choices, both public schools across districts and parochial schools, like we're talking about. And yeah, we are really blessed. Every child here in the state is able to receive that scholarship, which really helps the cost with tuition. Which cost is, like we talked about in Arkansas. It's for the quality of education they get here in town. It's relatively affordable compared to a lot of other places.
Absolutely. And, we currently homeschool the kids, John, but after moving here, we have been able to find a variety of great Catholic school options. So we did settle on one, we're enrolling, all of that, which is amazing. And I know not everywhere has that option. But I wanted to just speak a moment for those who do, they are on the homeschooling side. I want to encourage families to take advantage of those scholarships for homeschooling as well. Um, I think that I know in Florida, the program is honestly excellent. here in Arkansas. We've used it a little bit. It's not as super slick as the Florida program in terms of the user experience, but that can contribute significantly for families. And as you touched on, the activities that children would otherwise not have access to. You can use it for like dance classes, sports, and so I think that it is something that families, I always encourage all our friends in Florida, like just apply. Like I think it's up to something like $200,000 or $250,000 of household income a year right now that you can qualify for those scholarships. And just like do not be ashamed to do that because
No, and Brooke, I guess to your point, like saying, a lot of us don't like taking handouts, right? Because we try to do what we can and we try to give to where we can. And I guess maybe I'll counter a little bit of a different thought. Um, there's programs in place for a reason, number one. And so I think the state, like, we'll pick on Arkansas, the state we both live in. They've recognized the importance of having school choices and being able to help out with the affordability on that. And they want to see kids be able to utilize those schools. They don't want to see a bunch of, schools having to raise tuition or ultimately consolidate, right? They want to keep promoting school choice for our kids. So take advantage of that as opposed to maybe taking the more prideful route of saying, I'm not going to take this scholarship opportunity for my kid, and therefore maybe I put them in public school, which is fine if you do that, but that could ultimately adversely impact other schools needing to raise tuition to cover cost or ultimately not getting those funds. And then at the same time, I would kind of say it's a little bit different thought, but for families who maybe don't even want to consider that, are you taking your employer's 3%, 4%, 5% 401k match, right? Those are dollars they're contributing towards you that you're accepting, right? So just be mindful of the resources like you're talking about. You gave some great points, but just be mindful of the resources that are out there, and don't be uh, ashamed or bashful to look into it and take advantage of it.
yeah, yeah, that's really sound advice. And one of the things you touched on that, by, having, more full classrooms, the schools are able to be funded. I think that as Catholic families using those scholarships, that does allow them to raise that tuition a little bit so that they're trying to be affordable for families. I really get that sense from all of the schools around here and elsewhere. The Catholic schools, they're trying to be affordable, but by having those scholarships available, they're able to, give their teachers that little bit of a raise, or invest in the school, repairs or whatever the case is needed. Um, and together, collectively, we can be contributing to the longevity and sustainability of our Catholic schools if we're willing to like accept that, right?
Yeah, and I think that's really important. Obviously, we both have uh, you know kids and family, and my wife and I certainly want to send our son to Catholic school, and that's something that we're going to explore. And I think it's important for, like you said, the sustainability and longevity, but also, I don't want the teachers to come teach class to your kids or my kids or whoever's kids and feel like they're struggling to get by, right? And so I think as Catholics, we always think about, hey, what do we need versus what we want? But the teachers also need a solid wage to pay their bills too, right? So I think it's just a win-win to seek those scholarships and ultimately uh, be able to enroll your child in a school that's going to provide them not only a great education but reinforce our Catholic beliefs.
Absolutely. Well, and I feel like I should maybe have prepared, have like a whole list of the states where those scholarships are available. But they are an important piece. Um, And then, yeah, I guess just kind of following on with the jobs of the teachers, right? Because providing livable wages, whether it be for the teachers or for our fellow business owners, for our parish staff is another big one, right? All of that flows from choosing to spend our money within our own community, right?
That's right.
Um, and I don't know, do you have thoughts on that? Because one of the things that I was doing an interview recently, and she said, well, families are really struggling. That kind of inspired the topic today with you, because I know you do so much for families and financial planning, but also this practical, getting to the point of being ready to invest. Um, that informed this conversation, but she said families are really struggling. And thinking about that, I kind of want to flip that on its head of, it's because we are holding back our support from each other that families are
That's right.
struggling. So I'd love to hear your
Sure.
thoughts.
And yeah, and both you and I as business owners, right? It certainly hits a little bit deeper when you're a small business owner and you realize the cost that goes into running a business at a high level, certainly like you do with Catholic owned. And so yes, it's absolutely tempting, right, to go on Amazon, and nothing wrong with that, right? We utilize it and it's great, but to go on Amazon, find something quick that the family needs, buy it, and it shows up at the door the next day, right? That's awesome. But but Jeff Bezos has enough real estate, in my opinion, right? So, being able to help out kind of our fellow Catholics, I think is essential. And for you to have the app that's just so easy, right? Whether I'm in Arkansas or whether I'm traveling to go see my family or my wife's family or some friends, it's good to just hop on there and see, okay, hey, I want to grab a bite to eat. Is there any Catholic owned restaurants, right? Or hey, I need to grab some stuff for the office. Is there any businesses around that I can pop into and support? Um, it kind of, I think what you've done is you've kind of created this ecosystem that's, I don't want to say old school because it's a cutting edge thought, but it kind of brings community back into business, right? As opposed to just always the bottom line, right? You have to receive a lot of value for what you purchase, um, but to think about, hey, if we don't support each other, we're all going to be in this struggling boat, right? And kind of, hey, is it rising tide helps everybody. So no, I think it's really important to help support each other. Obviously, small businesses, it's even more so. But it's just nice to know that the people you're supporting share your values, and it means a lot to them.
Yeah. It really is so much about community. I love that you touched on that because um I think especially now, and I've been having many conversations lately about how, a lot of people are a little bit burned out on the AI stuff. And, it has its place. It can streamline and automate a lot of things, and we're all for that, doing what humans cannot. But there really seems to be a push for human to human connection. Even if, yes, we're virtually speaking, but we're people talking to each other, you know?
Yeah, no,
Um,
just this, right? I mean, we get there's so much noise that drowns us out, right? Whether it's everybody's resume sounding the same, whether it's everybody's social post sounding the same, whether it's advertisements all sounding the same, right? It's kind of like whether we want to save time and not be creative, or we want to just go on to the next task because we've got a bunch of them to do. I think people are longing for that, like you just said, the human to human connection, right? People are longing for meaningful, genuine conversations, right? And I think this ecosystem helps with that, because I think everybody, as part of Catholic Home, that goes through that, um, everybody deeply cares, and so I think that's a great starting block to help people continue to support each other and grow.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. That's such a kind endorsement. I appreciate that. Officially, that's not a requirement to be on the show.
No, it's not. That's just how I feel. Brooke knows I'm pretty transparent and open book. So,
Yeah. Well,
so
thank
yeah, no,
you. Well, and John, can you share with the audience, I know the financial space, there's the compliance language. So I'm just going to invite you
Sure.
to please share your business with the audience and how they can get in touch with you to take advantage of your services.
Yeah, for sure. No, I appreciate that. So I guess I'll back up a step. Anybody that's out there that is a part of the Catholic owned ecosystem or ultimately is interested, we're more than happy to help provide guidance, right? Even if that's a one-time thing where you're just like, hey, John, I really don't know where to begin. Like you mentioned, I think somebody that's part of this larger network just said, hey, Brooke, I'm struggling. I don't even know where to start saving or what to start doing. Um, it can feel overwhelming. And we're certainly here for everybody, right? We can't, we try to be all encompassing for as many people as we possibly can. And if that means just a short-term engagement or something where just you have a question and just need some help understanding your options, we're more than happy to help provide that. But sure, our business, the name of it is Olympus Wealth Strategies. Like we talked about, I'm based here in Little Rock, Arkansas. Very blessed to work for the families that we do. And as far as our services are concerned, I guess you can kind of think of the stereotypical financial advisor, right? For most people, that comes to mind. We work on holistic wealth management, and so we're not just siloed in managing people's money or helping people's wealth grow. The meeting I've got later today, we're going to review their estate planning documents and coordinate with their attorney. Or a meeting I had earlier this morning was all about someone's taxes to get figure out a better tax strategy for them moving forward for this year and beyond. And so we try to be all encompassing as much as we possibly can. But at the same time, just help people out if they have some one-off questions. I can't tell you how many meetings we've taken that people just are like, hey, I don't need a long-term engagement, but I just need some short-term help. And so if you're part of the Catholic owned networking economy, then just feel free to reach out to us. Our website might be the easiest way to get a hold of us is investolympus.com. Our phone number, if you like to just pick up the phone and call, is 501-639-8000. But we'd be more than happy to take a look, give you a second opinion, or just tell you all the things you're doing right. So, and yeah, and so that I think that all comes back to Brooke just wanting to help other Catholics out, right? And just make sure that we're all taken care of. I know everybody works to help put a roof over our head and put clothes on our family and food in our stomach, but there's a lot more to that, and we're just happy to help play a small part.
That's wonderful. And tell us, what are all the states you can work in? Because I know there's licensure at play.
Yeah, so we're actually we are a SEC registered investment advisor, so we're independent. We don't work for any big companies that are based out of New York or Chicago or LA. If you're listening from those cities, no knock on you. But we don't have a bunch of we're not owned, I guess, by a bunch of executive management that doesn't understand our local network. So we can, because of that, we can work with anybody in the country. And so regardless what state you live in, we've got clients all over the country. We can help out anybody in the United States.
Wonderful. Well, and I love that everyone kind of has a specific group or audience that they serve well. And I really appreciate that you are focused on families and even those on the earlier, phase of the journey. It's so needed, and it's that kind of wide net of everyone has a place and everyone has a role. So thank you for being willing to help families, even just like ours. So
Well, for
it's
sure. And it's everybody starts somewhere, right? You don't just wake up one day as a 60-year-old having $3 million, right? And you and I are both in the thick of that right now with our businesses and our families. And and I think it's also nice too to be able to see the small wins stack up for younger families that we serve, right? It's being able to put together a good financial plan, figuring out, like you mentioned earlier in the call, choices for schooling and how tuition impacts the budget and how it impacts savings and all the different types of tools that we can bring out, all the different types of accounts for different tax strategies. And it's just great to see people in our age, start to stack up wins, because it's going to be a snow, just it's going to be a snowball effect in a positive way later in life.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, John. This was so fun. Getting
Yeah.
together, visiting all these things. Is there anything else that we didn't touch on that you wanted to cover with the family financial discussion? Because I know you think about this all the time.
Yeah. I would just say maybe a couple points real quick, Brooke.
Please.
Number one, if you have a workplace retirement plan and they give you a match, certainly take advantage of that. That's low hanging fruit, right? Just try to always win the low hanging fruit items. That's one of those. Um, as far as saving, a lot of younger families, mine included, uh, always are having discussions in the dilemma of, gosh, I want to help my children not only through school now, but through college later. Um, and that's wonderful. That's admirable. That's something to strive for and achieve. And I don't want to take that away from families, but don't forget you're older than your kids, and you probably don't want to work until you're 90, right? And so uh, make sure that you, within your budget, save for yourself for your eventual retirement, because your kids are going to hopefully be there for you, but you also want to make sure you're well taken care of and can enjoy life when your kids are older and maybe we become grandparents. And then just make sure you revisit your budget, right? Like we talked about in the beginning of the call, life has gotten more expensive. Maybe you get a raise, maybe the raise doesn't fully cover it, but certainly just revisit your budget with some relative frequency. Just because there's so many things. Streaming services is one of them, right? I'm guilty of that, but there's so many things that can creep up in our budget that slowly, and we don't think about it, but $20 here, $100 there, that starts to chip away at a paycheck pretty fast. And I'm not saying cancel those, but just be mindful of what you have out there and if you're actually using it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, one other thing is like, since moving to Arkansas, we moved here for a lot of reasons, but I wouldn't tell people to move here because it's perfectly good just how it is. But don't hesitate to look at other areas to move. I think sometimes that's just my advice from our own experience, which is just one family, but there are places that are more affordable than others. And
Oh yeah. And hey, my wife and I moved from San Diego 5 years ago. So the cost of living out, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's beautiful out there. Weather's awesome. But cost of living just was tough. And we're able to have the life we live now. And I don't think we would have that living elsewhere. And so I guess that's a big decision for a family, right? To move and maybe move away from other family members, but it's something that has been a blessing to us.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And there are a lot of great states with great Catholic communities. Here we're 5%, I think. Is that what you heard too?
It feels a lot bigger.
It does. It does. But I'm officially a fan of Little Rock, but I don't talk about it a lot because it's fine the way it is. But no, this is awesome. Thank you so much, John. This was so fun. And thank you for being part of Catholic Owned as well. It really means a lot to have trusted members that we can send folks to and that are willing to help out and are equipped to help people at a variety of stages. It's a big deal. So thank you so much. I think that's gonna do it for the show. Thank you to our audience for joining us here for Catholic Owned Live, and we will be back here on Friday wherever you're watching now. It'll be back here. It'll be just me. I don't have John with me Friday, unfortunately, but it will be the Founder Friday. It'll be really fun. So be sure to join us. Give us a follow. Leave a comment. Let us know how you're dealing with the financial uncertainty that we're kind of all dealing with right now, and we can support each other in the comments. Thank you so much for joining us, and God bless you.
Thank you, Brooke.
Okay, so we're gonna end the stream